Hey everyone, let's be honest. Goal setting, it can feel kind of like, I don't know, being bombarded with those picture-perfect vision boards. You know the one?
Oh, absolutely. And don't even get me started on those intimidating 30 under 30 lists.
Right, like how am I supposed to compete with that?
Exactly.
So for this deep dive, we're ditching the overwhelm, we're keeping it real, practical, actually doable. And we're doing it all based on your source, which I have to say, I love the title. Setting and achieving goals is easy, actually.
It really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it?
Totally, because seriously, why do we make it so complicated?
The pressure to have it all figured out right from the start can be, well, paralyzing.
It's so true. And that's what I really connected with in this source. It totally calls out that whole perfect plan myth because, let's be real, life, it's messy. Things change. Priorities shift.
All the time.
And suddenly that color-coded spreadsheet you spent hours on, about as useful as last year's calendar.
And that's where I think this source really shines.
Yeah.
Reframes planning. It's not about this rigid, set-in-stone roadmap.
I love that.
It's more like plotting a course on your GPS.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right.
Because you wouldn't hop in your car for a cross-country road trip and expect to know every single turn, every detour, every rest stop, right?
Definitely not.
You plot the general direction and you adjust as you go.
Exactly. Start with a plan. Any plan that's going to evolve. And give yourself permission to navigate those detours because they're coming.
They always do. This actually makes me think about a goal I've been, honestly, putting off launching my own website.
Oh, tell me about it. Websites can be beasts.
Right. And I think I've gotten so caught up in designing this perfect layout that I haven't even started on the content.
So it's like you're stuck in the planning phase.
Totally.
Well, think of it this way. What would a rough draft of your website look like?
Yeah.
The simplest version you could get out there, knowing you can always go back, refine it, improve it.
Okay. Yeah. That's actually a really good way to look at it. It's not about waiting for perfection. It's about getting started and then letting it evolve organically.
Exactly.
Now, this source also tackles those, big, hairy, audacious goals.
The ones that feel kind of impossible.
Yes, the ones that feel about as daunting as climbing Mount Everest.
Oh, those Mount Everest goals. We've all got them.
Right, like be more productive or travel the world.
And this source nails why those vague aspirations often backfire. It's like saying, I'm going to conquer that mountain without even glancing at a map, without packing your gear.
So true.
We're setting yourself up for a challenge.
Exactly. So instead of that overwhelming get fit goal, the source encourages us to break it down, make it tangible. Like, do 10 minutes of exercise today. Suddenly it feels manageable.
Exactly. Small, concrete steps. Instead of write a business plan, it's outline one section of my business plan today.
Oh, I love that. I'm actually writing some of this down as we're talking because this is resonating so much.
I get it. I'm a note taker too.
It's really making me think. I will admit, I have been that friend, the one who's like, yeah, let's be accountability buddies with the best of intentions.
Oh, we've all been there.
But then life happens, right? And those check-in texts, they get a little less frequent.
And before you know it, you're back to square one.
And you feel bad because you bailed on your friend.
It happens to the best of us.
This source really made me realize that relying solely on someone else for accountability can be, a recipe for disappointment.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. That's where things get interesting.
Yeah.
Because while having that support system is fantastic, the source argues that the most effective accountability, it comes from, you.
You're your own hype squad.
Precisely. Tracking your progress, even if it's just jotting down those small wins in a journal, rewarding yourself along the way. That's where the magic happens.
It's so true. What's a reward you've given yourself recently that really felt good?
Honestly. Sometimes the best reward is just creating that space in my schedule. Time to focus on my own goals, guilt-free.
Oh, I feel that.
And that actually ties into another key takeaway from this source, the power of saying no.
Okay, let's talk about that because that is a big one, especially when, everyone I know seems to wear busyness as a badge of honor.
It's true. But, as this source so cleverly points out, every time we say yes to something, we're also saying no to something else.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Are we saying yes to another social commitment when we'd rather be working on that side hustle? Or yes to scrolling endlessly when we could be pursuing a passion?
It's about aligning your actions with your goals. Even if it means setting boundaries, prioritizing your own needs.
Absolutely.
This whole no thing as self-care, it really struck a chord with me. Just the other week, I had this last-minute invitation to a concert.
Oh, fun.
It was. But I ended up turning it down. And you know what? Instead of that usual twinge of guilt, I felt this like wave of freedom wash over me.
I love that.
I know, right? And I spent the evening working on my photography, which has been on my to-do list forever.
There you go.
It felt amazing.
And that's exactly what this source is getting at, making those conscious choices that align with what you really want, even if it ruffles some feathers or, gets the grain a bit.
It's about prioritizing yourself. So can we talk about setbacks for a sec? Because even with the best intentions, sometimes things, they go sideways.
They absolutely do. Life happens.
It really does. I've had my fair share of faceplant into the cake moments when it comes to goals.
Oh, tell me about it. We've all been there. But here's the thing, and this source does a great job of highlighting this. We need to reframe setbacks, not as failures, but as learning experiences. Remember that coding example it gave?
Okay, full disclosure, I am not a coder, but I'm listening.
So imagine you're building an app, right? And you encounter this bug in your code.
Okay, I can already feel the frustration building, and I'm not even the one coding.
Right. But instead of seeing that bug as a sign to just give up, throw in the towel, what if you saw it as a signal to pause, analyze, maybe even find a more elegant solution?
So it's like saying, okay, this path hit a dead end. Time to pull out the map, find a detour, maybe even discover a more scenic route.
Exactly. And the source does a great job of showing how this applies to all kinds of goals, not just tech stuff. Business venture not taking off. Fitness routine feeling stale. It's all about reassessing, recalibrating, come back stronger.
It's all about that growth mindset. I think we get so easily discouraged by those bumps in the road when in reality, they're just part of the journey. And speaking of journeys, this source used such a classic analogy, the tortoise and the hare.
A classic for a reason. Slow and steady wins the race, right?
Tell me about it. We live in such a go, go, go culture. It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking we need to be making these massive leaps and bounds every single day.
Right. Burning ourselves out in the process.
Exactly. But this source just beautifully illustrates that consistency. Even in small doses, it makes a difference.
Small, consistent actions, day after day, they add up. It's like that saying, we overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in a year.
So true. And the source, to really drive this home, uses the analogy of brushing your teeth. Not exactly the most, exhilarating activity.
Exactly a thrill a minute.
But that consistent daily habit leads to a lifetime of healthy smiles.
It's a great analogy. Simple, but powerful.
It really is. Okay, so this source also talks about a tool that, I'll be honest, I'm a little hesitant to bring up because I don't want people thinking we're about to, meditate on a mountaintop or something.
Not quite, though there's nothing wrong with a little mountaintop meditation if that's your thing.
Because we're talking about visualization.
We are. But think of it less as woo-woo and more as mental reversal.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Athletes use it all the time. Performers, even entrepreneurs.
I've heard about athletes using it, picturing themselves crossing the finish line, making that impossible shot.
Exactly.
But how does that translate to, everyday goal?
So let's say you have a big presentation coming up. Instead of just picturing a successful outcome, which is great, visualize the whole process. Handling tough questions, what you'll do if the tech goes haywire, everything.
Oh, I like that. So it's like running a simulation in your mind.
Exactly.
Anticipating obstacles, coming up with solutions so you're not caught off guard.
Precisely. And you know what I found? When you mentally rehearse those challenging scenarios, it helps you stay calm, cool, and collected when they actually happen.
It's like you've already been there, done that. It's interesting. This source, it really focuses on individual goal setting, but it sparks all these other insights about mindset, about self-care, even about preparation.
I know. It's all connected, isn't it?
Totally.
And it got me thinking, what if we applied these same principles, the ones we've been discussing, not just to personal goals, but to collaborative ones, like team projects or even community initiatives?
Oh, now that's fascinating. Instead of that classic, let's crush it mentality, what if we took a page from the source, broke down a large project into smaller, manageable steps?
I love that.
Each step with a clear owner, a realistic timeline.
And imagine celebrating those incremental wins as a team instead of just waiting for the finish line, acknowledging the collective effort, the little victories along the way.
It's like everyone at that finish line, high-fiving.
Sharing that feeling of accomplishment.
And I love that. Instead of one person, carrying the weight of being the cheerleader or the taskmaster, it's shared accountability.
Everyone invested in each other's progress and ultimately invested in that shared vision.
Exactly. It brings a whole new level of meaning to teamwork makes the dream work.
It really does. And, just like with those individual goals, Think about how powerful visualization could be in those collaborative settings too.
Ooh, tell me more.
So imagine the whole team taking time to visualize a successful product launch or a campaign going viral, whatever the big goal is.
Okay, I'm with you.
But they don't just picture the win, they also envision the potential roadblocks and they brainstorm solutions together proactively.
So it becomes this amazing team-building exercise, but also creativity booster, a strategic planning session, all rolled into one.
Exactly. It's not just about, here's the goal, let's go get it.
Yeah.
It's about, here's the goal, here's what might trip us up, and here's how we'll handle it together.
I love that. This deep dive has really broadened my perspective on these goal-setting principles.
Me too.
We've gone from personal growth to teamwork and everything in between. It really highlights how interconnected it all is.
It really is. Because at the end of the day, whether we're talking personal goals or professional milestones, it's not just about checking things off a list.
There's so much more to it.
Right. It's about growth. It's about connection. It's about living a more fulfilling life, period.
So well said. As we wrap up this deep dive into setting and achieving goals is easy, actually, what's one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
With all the amazing strategies we've unpacked, I think the most important thing to remember is to believe in yourself.
Ah, I love that.
Because you've got this. You have the power to figure things out, to adapt, to bounce back from those setbacks. Trust yourself.
Embrace the journey, celebrate the wins, and never, ever underestimate your own potential. That's good stuff.
Absolutely.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep dreaming, and we'll catch you next time.